So good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to this morning's talk on supporting communication in the early years, what to expect from 0 to 3-year-olds. So my name is Tina Breston and I work with the Children's Disability Team in Donegal. And I'm also one of a number of parent support champions across Donegal. The Parent Support Champion project comes under TULSLA and is involved in promoting 50 key messages for parents and the Parenting 24/7 website. We're running today's talk as part of the Parenting Support Initiative under the HSE Community Healthcare Area 1 and the Children and Young People Service Committees in the region. And for more information on parenting, please see the Parenting 24/7, mychild.ie, or Supporting Parents under the gov.ie. So our speaker this morning is Siobhan Lynch. Siobhan is a senior speech and language therapist in Donegal Primary Care. Siobhan has been working as a senior speech and language therapist in Donegal since moving from the UK in 2005. And her current role includes the assessment, treatment, and management of children with communication difficulties in the CHN North Donegal, as well as supporting parents and carers. Siobhan also supports colleagues in their professional development and teaches student speech and language therapists. Siobhan will be joined by her colleague Charlotte Maguire, who will answer a number of questions, frequently asked questions, at the end of this talk. So we hope you enjoy this morning's talk and find it informative. And without further ado, I'll pass you over now to Siobhan. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. So welcome. We in the Primary Care Donegal Speech and Language Therapy Service are delighted to have teamed up with TULSLA and Donegal Parent Support Champions to present these talks on supporting communication in the early years. As Tina said, this talk is relevant for parents of children aged 0 to 3, and you'll also find a talk relevant for parents of 3 to 5-year-olds as well. These talks have been developed by a small team of primary care therapists. My name is Siobhan, as Tina said, and I developed this talk with my colleagues India Boyle and Suzanne Thomas. And again, as you know, my colleague Charlotte is online with us as well to answer questions at the end. So the topics for today are communication development, typical language development, as in what would you expect to see at particular ages, multilingualism, because more than one language is spoken in so many homes now, and then we'll move on to some of the common barriers to speech and language development, and then strategies to support speech and language development in the home and in everyday routines. And like I've said, we will then answer some questions. So this is the communication development pyramid. Some of you might have visited a speech and language therapist already and be aware that we tend to play with the small children quite a bit when they're in sessions, and this is why. While we're playing, we're evaluating all of these areas of communication, starting at the bottom of the pyramid with attention and listening skills. I often describe this to parents as a wall, and when you build a wall, each block has got to be side by side in order for the next row of blocks to sit on top. And if there are any gaps between those blocks, the next row falls down into those gaps. And the same applies for communication development. If the attention skills and listening skills are weak, then we cannot expect the higher rows in the pyramid to be developed as expected. So now we'll show you what to expect from each level in the 0 to 3 age range. So you'll see on the next notes on the next 4 slides that this information is a guide. As you know, every child is different, and it's important that you keep that in mind when you're looking at your child. So from 0 to 12 months, in terms of attention and listening, your child is highly distractible. That's part of their development. Everything distracts them. They can be distracted by something as simple as a noise, such as a voice, to something moving in their eye line. During this period, your child will learn to smile, laugh, and cry in response to things beyond themselves. They love putting things in their mouths, which is an early stage of play development, even though you might not see it as play. They learn to understand the tone of your voice, words like yes, no, hello, bye. From 4 or 5 months onwards, you'll start to hear them babble and make more purposeful noises that will later resemble words and become real words as they get older. At this age, we don't think about specific sounds or the clarity of the speech because there are such few sounds that your child can have developed at this age. In the 12 to 18-month range, you might notice your child's attention moves from being flitting around to lots of different things towards being more focused on one thing at a time. He or she will like to play in the same area as others, but not necessarily with them. They begin to understand simple instructions like get your shoes. They start to make more purposeful noises like car sounds or animal sounds and start using words towards the later stage. They start using words like mama and dada and words that are in their environment on a regular basis. At 18 to 24 months, your child is now able to really focus attention, but still only on only one thing at a time. I'm sure some of you will say that they don't always answer you when you call, and that is because they cannot listen to your voice and do what they're doing. They begin to play alongside others, and their interest in toys widens. At this stage, he or she can understand about 250 words. They can use words, and as they get closer to the age of 2, they might even start putting two words together, something like dada go. Their speech is starting to become clearer, but maybe only to those who are familiar with them. From the 2 to 3 year age, you will see a big jump in communication development again. Your child learns how to shift their attention from one thing to another. You will find that they still have to stop what they're doing in order to listen to you, but unlike the earlier stages, they will just go back to that activity that they were doing. He or she now learns how to play with others, and they become more interested in specific toys. They can understand simple two-part instructions and more. And as they approach 3 years of age, they can combine words to make short sentences. Their speech is still becoming clearer, but there are some sounds that they may not be able to make, so you'll not necessarily understand everything that they're saying. They may repeat words or parts of words whilst their skills are developing, which is fluency. Remember, as mentioned earlier, this is just a guide and every child is different. Even siblings in the same house, brought up in the same way, develop skills at different rates. Multilingualism, it's very important that you're all aware that there's no evidence to suggest that learning more than one language prevents or delays language development. Each child will learn and develop language differently. Learning more than one language requires and develops your child's skills in switching from one language to another and realizing that there are different languages. It's normal for a child to have a silent period. This happens frequently when a new language has been introduced. It can last anywhere from 1 to 6 months, where they don't use the language, but we often hear that the child can still understand that language. They're just listening and learning. Consistency is key, especially in multilingual homes. We recommend a one parent approach, which is one parent speaking one language and usually in the language that is stronger for that parent. The strategies that are coming up will still apply even in a multilingual home. We're now moving on to the barriers to language development. That's the things that could prevent your child's communication skills from developing. One of the main barriers to language development is screen time. And when we talk about screen time, we're referring to the TV, to iPads and tablets, phones, laptops, gaming devices, computers, basically anything with a screen. You'll find this information on the HSE website. It tells us that children who spend a lot of time in front of a screen in early childhood are more likely to sleep less or have sleep issues, and might also be overweight or obese. For 0 to 18 months, screen time should be avoided other than for photos or video calls. For 18 to 24-month-olds, they should spend as little time as possible in front of a screen. And if you decide to introduce digital media to this age group, it should be appropriate for their age. It should be high quality and educational, and you should watch it together to ensure that your child understands it. For the 2 to 5-year-olds, screen time should be less than 1 hour per day for the entire day. Remember back to the attention skills that I spoke about. Your child at this age in front of a screen is unable to shift their attention away in order to listen to you. Therefore, they're not likely to learn from your communication models. You'll see tips for reducing screen time on this link at the bottom of the screen. We also recommend that parents are mindful of their own screen time. Another common barrier to speech and language development that we see in clinic is prolonged dummy use and sometimes thumb sucking. We're not saying that you shouldn't give your baby a dummy or soother or pacifier or dodo, whatever name you use for it. They have their uses as they help reduce stress and enable your baby to sleep. What we're talking about here is prolonged use. You can see in the picture here what prolonged use of the dummy can do to the teeth. It also stops your child from wanting to talk. It stops their teeth growing straight, as you can see. It prevents them from developing new muscle strength, essential for speech and chewing. It prevents the development of accurate speech sound production and causes the child to breathe through their mouth, which leads to excessive dribbling. The easiest time to wean is around the 6-month mark, as your child has not yet developed an emotional attachment. At this stage, your child is sucking less and chewing more. Their baby teeth are erupting and they're starting to babble. There's evidence to suggest that the use of the dummy beyond 12 months of age increases the risk of ear infections, which has implications for language development. However, most groups recommend weaning your child off after 2 when they are more emotionally ready. You might want to think about introducing something else like a teddy as a comforter to help with this transition. And you can see the links at the bottom of this page give useful tips on weaning off the dummy. So now we are moving on to developing speech and language and using strategies in the home. On the side of this slide, you'll see a leaflet with a QR code. You can scan this QR code and it brings you to a set of videos that have been developed by our colleagues in Clare and Limerick, also with the support of TUSLA, or you can Google HSE Learning to Talk playlist. So the first strategy we're going to talk about is watch, wait, and listen. This helps, the watch part of this helps you understand what your child is thinking and is interested in. It helps you observe his or her actions, their gestures, and their facial expressions. We advise that you look in the direction of where the child is reaching or pointing and be involved in the moment. The next part of this strategy is wait. This is a really powerful tool. It gives your child the time to start an interaction and or respond to your communication. Waiting means that you stop talking, you lean forward, you look expectantly at your child. And one of the tips that we give parents is to count to 5, and that will start in your head, and that will stop you from talking. Sometimes you might need to wait until you counted to 10. Waiting sends your child the message that you're ready for them to respond, or better yet, let them take the lead, be that with their words or their gestures. Reward your child immediately by responding to what he or she has just done or said. Listen. paying close attention to all your child's words and sounds, and take care not to interrupt them. You're letting them know that what they say is important to you. Even when using this strategy, there might still be times that you can't work out what your child is trying to tell you. It's important that you let them know that you're trying. You'll see on this slide that there's a link to the video Helping My Child to Talk, Watch and Wait. These videos are 2 to 3 minutes long and are really beneficial. By using the watch, wait, and listen strategy, you will automatically reduce the number of questions you might ask your child, and you will follow their lead, which are really important factors for language development, as your child knows that you're listening to them whenever they are ready to start talking. You'll find these short videos helpful. A great time to practice this strategy is when you're playing together. Watch what your child is doing. Wait, don't speak. Make it obvious that you're waiting. Then listen and watch and respond. As a parent, you're often one step ahead of your child. You know when they're getting hungry, when they're tired, when they want something. Therefore, you often meet their needs before they even know what they want themselves. This means they don't have to ask for it. And this is particularly the case if your child is not yet talking. This next strategy is communication temptations. These are activities that you set up to tempt your child to communicate. As you can see from the pictures on this slide, there are little obstacles or tricks that we use, and they're things that you can do on a daily basis at home. Put something slightly out of reach so your child has to communicate with you. This might be asking you or making a gesture or a noise. Maybe you could put their favorite snack in a see-through box that they can't open by themselves. And then you use your watch, wait, and listen strategy. Another one that you can practice frequently is in the morning or in the evening when you go to your child in the cot or if they're in the bath. Don't automatically lift them out. Just watch, wait, and listen for them to make that little noise or gesture that they want you to lift them. Remember, your communication temptation must be something that they really want or that they'd like in order for it to be motivating for them. When you're setting up your communication temptations, don't be discouraged. As I mentioned earlier, you're so good at knowing what they want before they know that everything is ready for them in advance. Therefore, your child will not know what's happening when you first start using this strategy. It may take several attempts. You just need to keep repeating what you're doing on a daily basis and try not to give in straight away. Consistency is key. If they don't do what you want them to do, then you can show them the first few times. But make sure that they get their reward as soon as they make any attempt to ask for it. In order for these strategies to be as effective as possible, it's important you pitch your responses at the right level for your child. This will depend on the communication level they're at, and again, there are videos to help you. If your child is using gestures, you can help them by using the same gesture and add a single word, the name of the object or the action that they're doing. This allows them to hear how the word sounds and have the chance to copy you when you watch, wait, and listen. When your child starts using words, you can then support them by putting two words together and so on. And these videos guide you through from gestures to single words to combining words together. There's lots of them to help you through. Like I've said already, consistency is key and repeat, repeat, repeat everything you're doing. Thank you. Time for questions.
Now, Tina or Nicola, I'm just wondering, are there any questions for us? Thank you, Siobhan, for all of that lovely information.
Thank you, Siobhan. Yeah, we have a question here. At what stage should I refer my child for speech and language assessment?
Okay, so you could see from the information that Siobhan has just given us that there is a wide range of expectations of what is typical development in our children, and this can be very different across different children. All children develop at their own rate. When to be concerned would be, for example, if by 2 years your child is not using any two-word combinations. We tend to go with roughly a word per year as a rule of thumb. So if by 2 years your child's not using two-word combinations, if at 3 years your child's not using three-word combinations, then this is a time to be concerned. In terms of speech clarity, by the time your child is 3 years of age, an unfamiliar adult should be able to understand between 50 and 75% of what your child is saying. So if you are struggling to understand the clarity of your child's speech, or other people cannot understand your child, then this will be a time to consider referring as well. If you're really unsure, you can check in with someone like your public health nurse, who can do a developmental check with your child and guide you as to whether or not it is time to seek a referral. I hope that's answered that question. Tina, have we any other questions?
We have one. Yeah, we have. Thanks, Charlotte. We have one more question here. How do I make a referral to the speech and language therapy service?
Okay, we have what is known as the Children's Services Referral Form, and this form is used for all primary care services, including speech and language therapy. This form, again, will be available from the likes of your public health nurse or your GP, or you can access it yourself on the HSE website. To make a referral to speech and language therapy and other services, you need to complete the Children's Services Referral Form, and it also needs to be accompanied by the additional information form. These forms are different for different ages, so you need to make sure that you have downloaded or received the correct age form for your child. And both of these forms need to be returned to your local speech and language therapy service to get your child referred and on the list. Once the referrals are received by our department, they are screened usually by a senior speech and language therapist. And if we need any further information, you may receive contact either by phone or by letter from your speech and language therapy service. And once the forms are screened and we think, yes, this child definitely needs to be on the list, then they're put on the waiting list. And these waiting lists are different depending on the different areas that you're from.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlotte. That's our two questions here answered. Perfect. Lovely. So I think we've come to the end now of our talk, which was fantastic. We want to thank Siobhan and Charlotte for their time this morning. And on behalf of the Parent Support Champions, we thank you for watching this webinar this morning.
Thanks, Tina.
Thank you, Tina.